When was the last time you were snooping and found something you wish you hadn't? Story 1. In my last relationship, I had a persistent gut feeling practically from day one that my significant other was up to something, but I could never find solid proof. He was flirty and kind of private with his phone, kept it on silent all the time, turned it off at night, never opened his texts in front of me, and got defensive whenever I'd say anything about it. I've never been a snooper, but one night he went to bed early and forgot to turn his phone off. I swore to myself I wouldn't snoop, I'd just trust him. But when I walked through the bedroom to use the bathroom, his phone lit up with a Facebook message around 2 a.m. Now, if we were younger and had more of a social life, then friends messaging him late at night wouldn't have been weird. But we were mid-30s, semi-antisocial homebodies, so it was very weird. Also, he had been getting Facebook messages earlier that night, and he just kept quickly swiping the notifications away, so I was already suspicious. I couldn't resist. I snooped, and I did not like what I found. A little backstory. Earlier that night, he randomly told me he deleted a certain female friend off Facebook, so I wouldn't worry about her anymore. This girl used to call and text him daily when we were first together, and I'd always been nervous about her. Mainly because she would always call him at the same time of night, just as he was dropping me off after our dates, and he would always decline it. I'm not stupid. I knew he was calling her right back as soon as I got out of the car. And we all know that if your SO won't talk to their just a friend in front of you, then they're not just a friend. But like I said, I could never prove anything, so I let it go, and we moved on with the relationship. She hadn't contacted him in about 6 months at the time of this incident, and I had practically forgotten about her, so it was pretty suspicious for him to make a sudden show of deleting her, supposedly for my benefit, when I hadn't thought about her in months. Well, as I'm sure you've guessed by now, the Facebook message was from her. A few hours prior, she had asked why he deleted her, and he said he hadn't, lied. He didn't know how it happened, another lie, and he's so sorry and he'll add her back, which he did. Then he told her they should start texting again like they used to. I checked his texts, and there were none from her, but I'm sure he just deleted them before he went to bed. Before that, there was an older message, and a bunch of gaps in the conversation where messages had obviously been deleted from a few months prior before he moved in with me, where she asked if she could come stay with him, and him telling her it wouldn't be a good idea, because he wouldn't be able to control himself. I wouldn't say I wish I hadn't seen it, because it exposed what a lying, cheating piece of crap he was, but it sure hurt to read. Freaking butthole. Story 2. I didn't mean to snoop in a sense of causing trouble. I was poking around because I had to fix one of my friend's laptops once, a lady in her mid-30s or so, and it was running horribly slow, so I was just trying to see what might have caused the issue. Well, I went digging into the laptop one night to see what was going on while a virus scanner went on in the background. And I went to recent files, I think, or downloads, one of the two, been a while now, and there was an image titled something along the lines of, "You're welcome." And I was like, what the frick does that mean? So I clicked on it, and well, it was an image of her naked with a dill pickle dough in her bum. Also, I opened her browser, and all of her recent tabs opened, and most viewed stuff, etc. was there. All of it. All of it. As in gangbang, big dong on small teen corn, and lots and lots and lots of videos of chicks taking it in the bum. I mean, sure, that was kind of bonus points and all, me being a 19-year-old dude, but I didn't think of her like that, and now anytime she's mentioned or I see her, all I can imagine is that image and the idea that she is the only chick in some big 12-person origami or something. I did eventually fix her PC by getting rid of the viruses, and I cleaned up her browser. I told her just be careful what you click on, and if you download anything, make sure you scan it first. The usual talk. I asked her for $20, and she went, No, you helped me out, take more, and gave me like $40 or $45 or something dollars. Haven't been asked to fix her laptop again, but I think I remember her saying it broke and got really slow again for some reason, and she just decided to give up on it altogether. Story 3. This snooping was technically part of my job. I posted about this earlier, so I just copied and pasted. This is going to be hella long-winded. It happened to me at work today. I was going through a recently deceased managing partner at my office's files to help finalize his estate. I'm relatively new on the job, and he passed away prior to me starting work. However, this man's generosity has changed my life. He funded a sports team that I participated in throughout middle and high school that I credit with successfully keeping my depression at bay. When I learned of this man's passing, I cried, even though I barely knew him. I felt as if I owed something to this man who had done so much for me. Anyways, when I was going through his files, this particular section was tax returns. I found a small book. Thinking it was a ledger, I picked it up. It was definitely not a ledger. It was a copy of the Kama Sutra. In itself, owning a copy of this is no big deal, but his coworkers would be mortified. We are deep in the Bible Belt, and the office is really Baptist. I guess tax returns are a clever place to keep something like that, but I have no desire to know why he kept it in his office. I quietly put it back and told my supervisor that there was nothing relevant to the current status of his estate in that box. I feel like today I got to repay him a little bit by hiding that. I didn't do nearly as much for him as he did for me, but I can't imagine how his coworkers would feel about finding that, and I imagine he would be embarrassed as well. The bro code applies even after passing away. Story 4. I was 5, and at my friend's birthday party, all our parents were there. My friend told us, there were 6 kids altogether, that his parents had a secret and he wanted to show us something. So we all crowded into his parents' bedroom, locked the door, and he told us that if we searched the room for the key which opens a black suitcase, we would find the secret. So we turned that room inside out and finally found the key in an old shoe. He opened up a black suitcase, and there were tons of corn and giant dill pickle doughs wrapped in plastic bags. We didn't know what they were, so we thought they were pool floats. Thinking back, we were wanking each other with them and doing all kinds of regrettable things because we didn't know what they were. Anyway, my friend told us that the real secret was the tapes. So we popped them onto his dad's TV in the bedroom and started watching them. That was the first time I ever saw a real wiener in real life. Unfortunately, it was also attached to a clown with a painted face. The clown was screwing all the women in the room who also had their faces painted to look like clowns. It was super traumatizing. I never got over it. Story 5. Oh man, I was at a friend's house and he left me for an hour or so to pick up some other friends from a train station about an hour away. I figured I'd be cool and surprise everyone with a few joints when they got back. I was rolling on his dad's PC desk when my roach kind of slipped under the keyboard. So when I lift the keyboard, there's a bit of paper stuck to the bottom with the password written on it. He has a smoking hot mom, so I decided to perv it. Instantly regrettable. A search for pictures yielded hundreds of pics of his dad in women's clothing stashed in a hidden folder called Medical Records. I shut down the PC and never spoke about it to anyone. I have not seen my friend in a fair few years, but I hope for the sake of his family it's all still hidden. His dad is some big-time financial director for a well-known supermarket chain. I don't really know how it would affect his career if everything got out. Story 6. Was reformatting a guy's laptop in the barracks back in the army days. The guy was really stupid. We were in IT training for one thing, and he should have been more than able to do it himself. But that's besides the point. So my buddy and I go into his room and mostly plan to reformat his laptop and mess with it. The whole turning the picture upside down, screen capping the desktop and rotating it, stuff like that. But just before we wiped the laptop, we found loads of CP, like terabytes of it. When we called him over and asked him what the frick this was, he was proud of it. He said, "Nah, dude, it's cool. Look, she loves it." It was at this point when I had to restrain my buddy from literally throwing this guy out the 3rd floor window, while 2 others helped this guy to the sergeant's desk. He had some difficulty with the stairs. Story 7. When I discovered my maternal grandmother had 4 different kids with 4 different men before settling down with my grandfather took them all in and later had 4 kids of his own with my grandmother. He loved them all the same and ended his life protecting them. Some guy wanted to end the life of my oldest uncle for supposedly stealing his canoe. My grandfather found out and met the guy halfway to the river, and he got shot trying to block his way. This happened in Mexico, where the law existed, and the guy was never imprisoned. A few years later, the guy passed away after ending the life of a cop. The cop's family found him and got their revenge. My grandfather was a great and interesting man. He was a vegan, but at the same time, he would hunt and fish so that his kids could have food on the table. He grew his own vegetables and washed his own socks. I wish I could have met him. Story 8. I was fixing up my boyfriend's phone because he'd just returned the loaner, and needed all of his stuff restored after a repair. I had a couple of drinks in me at the time, or I probably wouldn't have snooped, but he had been acting pretty distant the last couple months. So I checked out some text messages between him and his friend. Honestly, I was hoping to find something sweet or reassuring, but instead I found out he was trying to find a nice way to dump me without hurting my feelings. And rather than sit on that info, I confessed that I snooped and confronted him about it. That was a sad day. We still care about each other and will remain friends as we were before we started dating, but I really, really loved that man. I just loved him more than he loved me, I guess. Story 9. I'm not a particularly nosy person, so I haven't really found anything too terrible ever, but my mom is the worst about invasion of privacy. I came home from campus one day to find that my old mattress had been replaced with a new mattress, signaling to me that my mother had been by my house while I was gone without telling me. Having swapped my old mattress out meant she had to have noticed the huge nylon straps that ran under the mattress to each corner for tying a person down. Also, the 60-plus feet of rope that had been on my floor was not there anymore. I began looking around and found the straps and the rope both in my bedside drawer where the cuffs for the straps were already stored. My mom knew it was a bedside table rope. Story 10. I was suspicious of my ex, really suspicious. We had spoken about my concerns in the past, but she always denied it and said I was just acting jealous and unruly. She was always very anti-sharing, so it wasn't unusual to me that she kept her phone on lockdown. So I waited until she forgot to take her little daily planner with her. Of course, I was right in my concerns, and she was lying to me. What a mixed bag of emotions. I felt so guilty going through her notebook and reading her private thoughts, validated that I wasn't crazy and making things up, and so incredibly hurt that she lied so much to me. I was really hoping to be wrong, but better that I was right. Story 11. My mom had this way of celebrating our birthdays, my siblings and mine, by gifting smaller presents during the party and revealing the best present at the end. So 12-year-old me wanted to know what my gift was for my birthday, and I found a bike hidden in the back of Mom's closet. It was nice, and I was initially pretty excited. But when my mom revealed the bike, I couldn't muster any level of enthusiasm for it. She took pictures, and I couldn't even smile. That's when I realized that birthdays are really for other people, and that it's okay to let people keep their secrets. What I did was wrong because it was selfish, and I still haven't been able to tell my mom about it. Story 12. My dad and I have a bad relationship. One time he and my mom went out of town for a weekend, and I had the house to myself. Found his iPad, went through his emails, most of which were with either his brother or sister. Pieced together that the reason my dad doesn't like/has a self-righteous attitude towards my aunt is because she accused their father of abusing her, and my dad did not believe her and turned the family against her. My grandpa did the same stuff to me when he'd visit us every summer, and I've never told my parents, and now I never will. Story 13. My mom lost her phone, so while at their house, I fished out my dad's old iPhone 4 and charged it up so she could activate it and use it while waiting for her replacement. The phone was a few years old, so I decided to look through the pictures for fun, and I'm also a freaking snoop. I stumbled upon a very naked photo of my dad, a freaking mirror selfie, and immediately threw the phone to my mom in disgust. My mom's face turned white and said, "This picture was definitely not for me." And that's how I accidentally exposed my dad's affair. Story 14. Went through my ex's phone the Friday before Christmas last year, due to him acting weird and anxious for 2 months. Found out he was soliciting and responding to Craigslist personals offering a suck-and-go experience. Also found dong pics that definitely weren't sent to me. This was the morning of our 9-hour drive to Nashville to spend a week with his family for Christmas. Most awful experience of my life. That messed me up, as I had developed quite the loving relationship with his 8-year-old. Got the heck out of there as soon as we were back. Story 15. So it's not even technically snooping, but on your Snap story you can see who's viewed your snaps. I never used to look, but out of curiosity, I checked. My ex watches all my snaps, and most of them are me with my fiancé doing fun stuff. It kind of depressed me a little, 'cause he never moved on and found someone else. And here he is, watching me really happy without a care in the world. Part of me says he needs to just move on, and the other part of me is convinced he's going to end his life single, childless, and lonely. Story 16. Looked up my ex-girlfriend's real name. She gave me a fake name for the whole relationship, and I was so smitten to believe her friends vouching, and finding out that she's popular in her hometown in the news articles. Her father works for Lockheed Martin, and that she was actually dating someone else the entire time I was dating her. That fake name stuff worked, I guess. But God, it hurts to this day, and that was over 3 years ago. I think I'd be getting better, right? Nah, fam, still heartbroken. Story 17. I found a really detailed journal my mom kept while she was fighting cancer about 3 years after she passed away. She wrote in it describing how the cancer was getting worse and the treatments getting harder to cope with. It was pretty hard to read, but it made me kind of glad that her nightmare was over. End of life doesn't always have to be so sad, and people make it out to be worse than it is. For a lot of people, it's a release. Story 18. I was around 7 or 8, snooping in my mom and dad's closet. I found a file with some papers, including my birth certificate. It had my sister's name as my mom, and for Dad it said unknown. So that was my first indication I was being raised by my grandparents. Yeah, that was a pretty crappy day. Story 19. Found a bunch of letters written to and from my parents about my dad's infidelity. I think they wanted to really think about what's on the page. It's caused me significant emotional distress, because I'm not supposed to know and I can't tell my sister or talk to them about it. Story 20. Condoms in Dad's backpack. He only uses that backpack when he's on business trips. Click on one of the videos you see on the screen now, or a Karen will sue you.